Marcus Whitfield was 38 years old when his wife told him she was dying of cancer. For 3 months, he'd spent nearly $300,000 of his inheritance trying to save her life, selling his vintage car collection, mortgaging their house, draining his retirement account. That Tuesday afternoon, Marcus left work early to surprise Simone at her chemotherapy session, but the treatment center had no record of her, no patient by that name. His phone showed her location across town, at LA Fitness on Gratiot Avenue. 25 minutes later, Marcus stood frozen in that gym, recording everything. There was his dying wife, the woman too weak to climb stairs, crushing a full cardio workout, her hair in a perfect ponytail, laughing, healthier than she'd looked in months. Then she met a man by the weights. He handed her an envelope. In that moment, Marcus realized the truth. There was no cancer. She'd stolen $300,000 through an elaborate lie, and she had no idea he was watching. What Marcus did next would cost Simone everything she thought she'd hidden away. But standing there with his phone still recording, he made a decision that would destroy her completely. Before we jump into the story, comment where in the world you are watching from and subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you need to hear. Marcus sat in his dimly lit home office, the blue glow of his laptop screen illuminating stacks of medical bills. Another $127,000 in treatment. He rubbed his tired eyes, glancing at the empty space on the wall where photos of his prized vintage cars once hung. 3 weeks ago, he'd watched his 1967 Mustang and restored Chevelle roll away on transport trucks, $85,000 that vanished into the endless void of medical expenses. The clock read 11:42 p.m. Simone was already asleep upstairs, exhausted from what she called a rough treatment day. Tomorrow would start early, 5 a.m. like every day now. He'd need to prep her special anti-nausea breakfast before heading to work. Organic steel-cut oats, fresh berries, ginger tea with honey. The nutritionist had been specific about the importance of maintaining weight during chemotherapy. His mind drifted back to that devastating day 2 months ago. He'd come home early to find Simone sitting at their kitchen table, hands trembling around a manila envelope. "The tests came back," she'd whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Stage 3 ovarian cancer." The world had shifted on its axis in that moment. Marcus, always the analyzer, the planner, had immediately gone into crisis management mode. He'd created spreadsheets tracking treatment options, mapped out medication schedules, researched experimental protocols. The inheritance from Aunt Sarah, $340,000 that had finally given them breathing room, became their medical war chest. Now, 3 months in, their financial foundation was crumbling. Beyond the cars, he'd taken out a second mortgage for $120,000 and withdrawn $95,000 from his retirement accounts. The penalties hurt, but what choice did he have? You couldn't put a price on your wife's life. He opened his treatment tracking spreadsheet, adding notes from today. Something nagged at him about Simone's energy levels. She'd seemed almost bouncy this morning, her hair still thick and shiny despite months of supposed chemotherapy. But different people responded differently to treatment, right? He'd read about that online. His phone buzzed, a text from his sister, Rochelle. "Just checking in. How's she doing with the new protocol?" Marcus sighed. Rochelle meant well, but her questions lately had taken on an edge he didn't like. Last week, during their weekly video call, she'd carefully mentioned that most ovarian cancer patients on Simone's treatment plan experienced significant hair loss by this. "Every patient is different," he'd snapped. "You're not her oncologist." "No, but I am a nurse, Marcus. And something doesn't add up." He'd cut her off, accusing her of letting her long-standing tension with Simone cloud her judgment. The hurt in Rochelle's eyes had stung, but he'd been fierce in defending his wife. Simone's phone buzzed on his desk. She'd left it downstairs again. A notification from what looked like a support group app flashed across the screen. She'd grown protective of her phone lately, saying she needed privacy with her support community, that some of the content might be triggering for him to see. He respected that boundary, even if it felt like another wall between them. Their marriage hadn't been perfect before the diagnosis. His analytical nature sometimes clashed with her more expressive personality. But now, the emotional distance felt wider. Just yesterday, when he'd expressed worry about her seeming fatigued, she'd lashed out. "You don't know what it's like to be dying," she'd spat. "Stop trying to control everything." Later, she'd brought up asking his parents for help with the mounting bills. The suggestion had shocked him. His father and mother lived modestly on Social Security after retirement. The idea of burdening them made his stomach churn. Marcus logged into their bank account, initiating another transfer, $15,000 for what Simone said was her upcoming treatment cycle. The numbers in their savings made him wince. How much longer could they keep this up? He closed the laptop, sitting in the darkness of his office. Upstairs, he could hear Simone's soft breathing through their bedroom door. Tomorrow would be another early morning. Meal prep, medication management, work, research. But Tuesday, he had that vendor meeting that might wrap up early. Maybe he'd surprise her at her 2 p.m. appointment, bring her favorite soup from the deli near his office. It was a small gesture, but these days he clung to any opportunity to feel useful, to feel connected to his wife as she fought for her life. Tuesday afternoon stretched endlessly as Marcus stared at his computer screen, mindlessly scrolling through spreadsheets. The vendor meeting's sudden cancellation left an unexpected hole in his schedule. His eyes drifted to the paper bag on his desk containing soup from Simone's favorite deli, Italian wedding, still warm. The digital clock on his monitor read 2:45 p.m. Simone would be halfway through her chemotherapy session by now. He pictured her sitting in one of those recliners he'd researched extensively, wrapped in the soft blanket he'd bought specifically for her treatments. "Might as well make use of this free time," he murmured, gathering his things. His co-workers had grown used to his early departures lately, offering sympathetic nods as he headed toward the elevator. The weight of their pity sometimes felt suffocating, but he appreciated their understanding. The drive to the treatment center took 40 minutes, traffic mercifully light for a Tuesday afternoon. Marcus rehearsed what he'd say when he arrived, not wanting to embarrass Simone. She'd been particular about maintaining her dignity through all of this. Pulling into the parking lot at 3:15 p.m., Marcus spotted several empty spaces near the entrance. He chose one with a clear view of the building's glass doors, perfectly positioned to wait until her 4 p.m. finish time. The soup was still warm against his palm as he pulled out his phone. "In the parking lot with a surprise," he texted Simone. "Take your time. I'll wait until you're done." No response. She was probably resting during treatment. That happened sometimes. After 10 minutes of silence, Marcus decided to check inside. Maybe he could leave the soup with a nurse. The reception area smelled of antiseptic and artificial flowers, a scent he'd grown familiar with over the past months. "Hi," he smiled at the receptionist, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes. "I'm here for Simone Whitfield. She's in for her 2 p.m. chemotherapy session." The woman's fingers moved across her keyboard, her brow furrowed slightly. "I'm sorry, but we don't have a patient by that name." "Are you sure this is the right facility?" Marcus felt his chest tighten. "Could you check again?" "Simonewhitfield. More typing. Another headshake. "No record of her here. Not today or any other day." His analytical mind kicked into overdrive, processing possibilities. Wrong day? No, she'd reminded him this morning about her 2 p.m. appointment. Wrong facility? He pulled out his phone, checking the address Simone had given him. The numbers matched exactly. "There must be some mistake," he said, his voice hollow. "She's been coming here for months." The receptionist's expression shifted from helpful to concerned. "Sir, I've worked here for 12 years. I know all our regular patients. I've never seen anyone by that name." Marcus's hands trembled as he tried calling Simone, straight to voicemail. His throat felt dry as he opened their shared location tracking app, something she'd insisted on setting up in case of emergencies during treatment. The blue dot marking her location pulsed mockingly. LA Fitness on Gratiot Avenue, clear across town. The 25-minute drive that followed felt like moving through molasses. His mind raced through scenarios, each worse than the last. His hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white, yet they wouldn't stop shaking. At 3:50 p.m., Marcus pulled into the LA Fitness parking lot. Simone's silver Civic sat 3 spaces from the entrance, gleaming in the afternoon sun. He stared at it, remembering how they'd justified keeping her car payment despite the medical bills. She needed reliable transportation to treatments. Inside, he mechanically handed over his credit card for the guest fee, barely registering the attendant's cheerful welcome. The familiar gym sounds washed over him, clanking weights, whirring machines, pop music threading through it all. And there she was. Simone moved with fluid grace on the elliptical machine, her body strong and steady. Sweat darkened the designer workout clothes he'd never seen before, brands they couldn't afford with their mounting medical debt. Her hair, supposedly thinning from chemotherapy, bounced in a high ponytail, thick and healthy as ever. Marcus stood frozen behind a support column, his phone automatically rising to record. He watched as his wife, who this morning had barely been able to eat breakfast due to treatment nausea, completed a vigorous cardio workout. She laughed at something on her phone screen, her face radiant with health and energy. As she finished her workout, wiping down the machine with practiced efficiency, a man approached from the weight area. He was fit, handsome, maybe mid-40s, carrying himself with easy confidence. Simone greeted him with a familiar embrace. Not romantic, but comfortable, practiced. They spoke animatedly, their body language suggesting long acquaintance. The man reached into his gym bag and handed Simone an envelope. Marcus's phone captured it all. The conversation, the envelope exchange, their easy rapport. His hands were steady now, filmmaker still, as he documented the collapse of his reality. When Simone and the man separated, Marcus followed her at a distance toward the locker room hallway. He waited, phone still recording, as she emerged fresh and glowing. Then he stepped directly into her path. "Hey, baby." He watched the emotions flash across her face like slides in a projector. Shock, panic, and then, most telling of all, an almost instantaneous recalibration into exhaustion. The mask she'd worn for months slipped, just for a moment, revealing something calculating underneath. Simone's voice quavered as she stammered, "Marcus? What are you doing here?" Her eyes darted around the hallway, scanning for escape routes like a cornered animal. "Surprising my sick wife." Marcus's voice came out cold and controlled, surprising even himself. "Except, you're not at chemo. You're here, looking healthier than you have in months." Simone's hand fluttered to her throat, a gesture he'd seen countless times during her symptoms. Now it looked rehearsed, theatrical. "I can explain. Dr. Morrison said light exercise would help with my treatment. I didn't want to worry you." "Stop!" Marcus held up his phone, still recording. "I went to the treatment center, Simone. They've never heard of you." For just a moment, the mask cracked completely. Marcus saw something he'd never witnessed in 8 years of marriage. Raw calculation and fear in his wife's eyes. Then, like a switch being flipped, tears welled up. "Marcus, please," she whimpered, reaching for him. "You don't understand." "Show me your medical records," he cut in. "Right now. Your treatment schedule, your prescription bottles. Show me everything. I need to go home. I'm not feeling well. Show me, now." or I'm calling the police and reporting medical fraud. He watched as Simone cycled through tactics with frightening efficiency. First came more tears, then righteous anger. How dare you ambush me like this? When that didn't work, she switched to accusations. This is exactly like you. So controlling, never trusting me. Finally, she tried practicality. My records are all at home. We can talk about this there. Marcus didn't budge. His voice remained steady, though his heart hammered against his ribs. Right now, Simone. She glanced around the hallway where a few gym members were starting to stare. Fine, she snapped. We'll talk at home. But you're humiliating me in public. They walked to their separate cars in silence. As soon as Marcus was alone in his vehicle, his hands started shaking again. He pulled out his phone and called Rochelle. You were right, he said, his voice trembling. She was at the gym. She's not sick. Rochelle's response came immediately, sharp and clear. Don't confront her alone. I'm coming over. There was rustling in the background. She was already moving. And Marcus, don't let her know what you're planning. If this is fraud, she'll destroy evidence. Those words acted like an anchor, transforming Marcus's shock into something colder, more calculated. By the time he pulled into their driveway, his hands were steady again. Inside, Simone was already in crisis mode. She paced their living room, her gym clothes exchanged for the oversized sweater she often wore to appointments. Yes, I exaggerated some symptoms, she admitted, words tumbling out. But I am sick, just not as bad as we thought. The doctors made some mistakes with the initial diagnosis. I was scared to disappoint you after everything you've sacrificed. Marcus set up his laptop on the kitchen table, Rochelle's face appearing on video call. Then he began methodically dismantling each lie. Show me one medical bill, he demanded. Simone's eyes darted to the stairs. They're filed upstairs. Call your oncologist. Right now. It's after hours. Explain the man at the gym. The envelope he gave you. He's a trainer. He was giving me a receipt. For what? Private sessions we can't afford because of your treatments? Marcus pulled out his phone. I'm calling your medical billing company tomorrow. I'm asking for every insurance claim you've filed. If you're sick, there will be a paper trail. He watched Simone's face go blank. Then something shifted in her eyes. The mask didn't just slip. It vanished completely. You'd ruin me over a misunderstanding? Her voice had changed, harder now, all pretense of weakness gone. A misunderstanding? I've spent $300,000. I've destroyed my financial future. For what? Your gym membership? Simone's laugh was bitter, sharp. You were going to waste that money anyway. Your aunt left it to you. What was I supposed to get? She stepped closer, eyes flashing. I've spent 8 years married to someone who cares more about spreadsheets than his wife. That money was my exit strategy. Marcus's phone captured every word. His voice remained steady. Get out. Pack a bag. You're leaving. Tonight. This is my house too, Simone sneered. You can't make me leave. Actually, Rochelle's voice cut through from the laptop. In Michigan, he can file for emergency exclusive possession if he can prove financial abuse and fraud. Which he can. Pack your shit, Simone. Simone grabbed her gym bag, spitting her parting words like venom. You'll never prove anything. And even if you try, you'll look like the fool who fell for it. Good luck explaining to everyone how stupid you were. The door slammed behind her. Marcus sat in the sudden silence of his house, the house he'd double-mortgaged for a fake illness. Rochelle's face on the screen showed a mixture of fury and concern. What do you want to do? She asked softly. Marcus's voice came out steady and cold. I want to know everything. Who that man is, where the money went, what she was planning. Then I want to take it all back. With interest. The clock on his laptop showed 11 p.m. Tuesday was ending, but something else was just beginning. Marcus sat at his dining room table, surrounded by the evidence of his wife's betrayal. Bank statements, medical bills, and receipts covered every inch of the wooden surface. The harsh glow of his laptop screen illuminated 3 meticulously organized spreadsheets, each tracking a different aspect of Simone's fraudulent medical expenses. It was 12:30 a.m. on Wednesday, and sleep felt impossible. Rochelle's face on the video call looked tired but determined as she sipped coffee in her own home. "Let's go through the Northwestern Memorial claims again," she said, shuffling through papers on her end. Marcus's fingers flew across the keyboard, his project management skills repurposed for documenting fraud. January 15th, she claimed $2,500 for specialized treatment. February 3rd, $8,150 for what she said was experimental therapy. Neither of those dates makes sense with standard ovarian cancer protocols, Rochelle noted, her nurse's training evident in her precise analysis. And Northwestern Memorial doesn't even offer the treatment she described. They worked methodically through the night. Marcus created detailed timelines, transaction histories, and withdrawal patterns. His analytical mind, usually focused on automotive supply chains, now tracked the systematic drainage of his accounts. Every few hours, Rochelle would call another medical facility using the information from papers Simone had left behind. University of Michigan Medical Center has no record of a patient named Simone Whitfield, Rochelle reported after one call. Neither does Henry Ford Hospital. At 3 a.m., they examined the prescription bottles Marcus had found in Simone's drawer. Under the harsh kitchen light, Rochelle guided him through checking the labels. "These are vitamin D supplements," she said, her voice tight with anger. She just pasted fake pharmacy labels over them. By sunrise, Marcus had compiled everything into a comprehensive document. His eyes burned from staring at screens, but his mind remained sharp. At 7 a.m., he called DeAndre, his friend who worked as a forensic accountant. "I need your help," Marcus explained, his voice hoarse. "My wife's been stealing from me. I need to know how much and where it went." DeAndre's response was immediate. "Send me everything you have. I'll start right now." Marcus emailed his files and called in sick to work, citing a family emergency. His boss, hearing the strain in his voice, didn't question it. Throughout Wednesday morning, DeAndre's findings trickled in through urgent emails. Each revelation hit Marcus like a physical blow. The first bombshell landed at 2 p.m. Simone had been making systematic withdrawals for 18 months before the inheritance, always just under $500, the threshold Marcus monitored for unusual activity. "She knew your habits," DeAndre explained over the phone. "Knew you'd notice larger amounts, but these small withdrawals added up to $47,000 over time." Marcus felt sick. While he'd been planning their future, Simone had been plotting her escape. The investigation into the mystery man from the gym yielded equally devastating results. DeAndre's reverse image search through social media revealed Terrence Wilcox, not a personal trainer, but Simone's direct supervisor at the medical billing company. Photos showed them at company events dating back 2 years, looking far too comfortable together. "Look at these comments," DeAndre said, sending screenshots. "You two make such a great team. Couple goals. And here's the kicker. He's married with 2 kids, under 6. Marcus studied Terrence's social media profile, seeing a smiling family man with his wife Alicia and their young children. The envelope exchange at the gym took on new meaning. Was it cash? Documents? Evidence of their collaboration. But the final revelation, delivered by DeAndre at 8:30 p.m., struck hardest. Most of the stolen money hadn't been spent at all. Through careful tracing of cashier's checks and deposits, DeAndre found an account at another bank, opened in Simone's maiden name. Current balance, $287,000, DeAndre reported grimly. At 9 p.m., Marcus stared at the account statement, his aunt's legacy sitting in his wife's secret account. The systematic precision of it all stunned him. This wasn't reckless spending or impulse theft. This was calculated extraction. DeAndre closed his laptop with a heavy sigh. Man, she was planning to divorce you, claim this as premarital assets somehow, and leave you with all the debt. Marcus felt something shift inside him, his rage transforming into crystal-clear purpose. He pulled out his phone and texted Rochelle, "I need a lawyer, the best family law attorney you know. Tomorrow morning." Marcus sat in the polished office of Patricia Owens, watching as the attorney methodically worked her way through his evidence. The morning sun filtered through vertical blinds, casting stark lines across the 3 heavy binders on her desk. Patricia, elegant in a charcoal suit with graying hair pulled back severely, maintained a neutral expression as she reviewed each document. "Play the confession recording again," she requested, leaning back in her leather chair. Marcus tapped his phone, and Simone's voice filled the room. "You were going to waste that money anyway. Your aunt left it to you. That money was my exit strategy." Patricia's eyes narrowed. She made another note on her legal pad, then lifted the gym surveillance photos. "And this man, Terrence Wilcox, he's her direct supervisor at the medical billing company?" "Yes," Marcus confirmed. "DeAndre found evidence they've known each other at least 2 years. The envelope he handed her could be evidence of conspiracy," Patricia finished, setting down the photos. "Especially if he helped create fraudulent medical documents using company resources." She stood, walking to her window. Her reflection showed a woman who'd seen countless betrayals in her decades of family law, but something about this case had clearly struck a nerve. "Mr. Whitfield, this isn't just divorce grounds," she said, turning back to face him. "This is criminal fraud, wire fraud, theft by deception. And if Mr. Wilcox was involved in creating fake medical documentation, that's conspiracy." Marcus leaned forward. "What are my options?" "You have 3 paths," Patricia explained, returning to her desk. "Civil divorce and asset recovery. Criminal charges. Or both simultaneously." She paused. "I recommend both. She needs to face full consequences, and criminal charges strengthen our civil case." "Both," Marcus agreed without hesitation. Patricia nodded approvingly and pressed her intercom. "Janet, prepare emergency motions for the Whitfield case. Separation with exclusive possession and asset freeze." She looked at Marcus. "We'll file immediately, but it'll take 24-48 hours for a judge to review." The rest of Thursday became a blur of strategic planning. Marcus called his boss, explained he needed a week off for a serious family emergency. The understanding in his supervisor's voice made it clear the strain was showing. DeAndre met him for lunch, bringing more financial analysis. "I'll have court-ready documentation by Monday," he promised. "Every dollar she took, every pattern of theft. It'll be bulletproof." Rochelle joined them, medical references spread across the table. "I've documented every impossibility in her claimed symptoms," she said. "No ovarian cancer patient on her supposed protocol could maintain her level of physical activity. The gym video proves it." That afternoon, Marcus sat in his home office, staring at a blank email screen. The decision to contact Terrence's wife hadn't come easily, but Patricia had been clear. If Terrence helped facilitate fraud, he was legally culpable. Marcus typed carefully, then deleted and retyped several times before settling on, "Your husband has been spending significant time with a woman named Simone Whitfield. You deserve to know." He attached the gym photo showing Terrence passing the envelope, added the timestamp, then hit send at exactly 8 p.m. By evening, Marcus found himself in a warmly lit office, sitting across from Dr. Yvonne Mitchell. The therapist, recommended by Patricia, specialized in betrayal trauma. "Documentation of psychological impact matters for court," Dr. Mitchell explained, "but that's secondary. Your mental health comes first. How are you sleeping?" "I'm not," Marcus admitted. "Every time I look at our bed, I see 8 years of lies." They spent an hour working through his immediate coping strategies. Dr. Mitchell's calm pragmatism helped ground him, giving him tools to manage the waves of anger and grief. At 11 p.m., Marcus's phone buzzed with confirmation that Patricia's emergency motions had been filed. A hearing was scheduled for Friday afternoon. He stood in his kitchen, technically still the marital home, but everything felt tainted. The coffee maker, where he'd prepared Simone's morning coffee during her illness. The dining room table where they'd planned her treatment. The couch where she'd cried her fake tears. He checked his phone one last time. The court filing notification glowed on the screen. Tomorrow would bring the first legal consequences. Tomorrow, Simone would learn that her careful plans were unraveling. But tonight, Marcus had to somehow sleep in this house full of ghosts. Friday afternoon sunlight filtered through the tall windows of the Wayne County Courthouse. As Marcus sat beside Patricia in the nearly empty courtroom, the wood-paneled walls and heavy furniture gave the space a weight that matched the gravity of the moment. Judge Harrison, a veteran jurist with silver hair and reading glasses perched low on his nose, methodically reviewed the emergency motions before him. "Ms. Owens," the judge addressed Patricia, "you're seeking both exclusive possession and an emergency asset freeze?" "Yes, Your Honor," Patricia responded, her voice carrying clear authority. "We have substantial evidence of systematic fraud and financial exploitation." Marcus watched as the judge examined the evidence packets, the confession recording transcript, DeAndre's detailed financial analysis showing the pattern of theft, and the medical fraud documentation. His heart pounded as the judge listened to a portion of Simone's recorded confession from the House confrontation. Simone's empty chair at the defendant's table spoke volumes. She'd been properly served at her mother's house Thursday night. Marcus had confirmed receipt of service. Her absence likely stemmed from arrogance, assuming this was merely procedural posturing that couldn't hurt her. Judge Harrison removed his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "The evidence presented is deeply concerning," he stated. "The systematic nature of the deception, the substantial sums involved, and the elaborate medical fraud scheme." He paused, reviewing one final document. "I'm granting both emergency motions." Patricia squeezed Marcus's arm as the judge continued. "The defendant is prohibited from entering the marital home without police escort. Mr. Whitfield is granted exclusive possession. Furthermore, the account at First Michigan Bank containing $287,000 is hereby frozen, pending full divorce proceedings." He looked directly at Patricia. "And I'm issuing a restraining order preventing the defendant from disposing of any other assets." Marcus felt a surge of cold satisfaction. Simone couldn't touch the stolen money now. It was the first tangible consequence she'd faced. But across town, another storm was breaking. At precisely 9:15 a.m., Alicia Wilcox had walked into the medical billing company's lobby, her face set with determination. "I need to speak with Terrence Wilcox and Simone Whitfield," she'd demanded at reception. "It's about financial impropriety and misuse of company resources." The resulting chaos had escalated quickly. HR Director Janet Chen had been called when Alicia refused to leave without answers. The mention of fake medical documents on company letterhead had triggered immediate concern. By early afternoon, both Terrence and Simone were called into separate meetings and placed on administrative leave pending investigation. The HR investigation moved with surprising speed. It pulled Terrence's system access logs, discovering multiple instances where he'd created medical documents outside normal business operations. The documents matched dates when Simone had claimed treatments, documents she'd likely shown Marcus as proof. "This isn't just an inappropriate relationship," Janet Chen had told her superiors. "This is potentially criminal forgery using company resources." At 6:45 p.m., Marcus's phone lit up with Simone's number. He let it go to voicemail, following Patricia's strict instructions about no direct contact. Simone's voice filled his phone a minute later, shrill with rage. "What did you do? I just got suspended from work. You're destroying my life over nothing. You're going to regret this." Marcus saved the message immediately, then forwarded it to Patricia. More evidence of Simone's lack of accountability or remorse. Patricia called at 8:30 p.m. with an update. "The prosecutor's office is reviewing our referral," she explained. "They're evaluating whether this meets the threshold for criminal charges versus civil dispute." But Marcus, he could hear the satisfaction in her voice, the systematic nature of the deception, the forged medical documents, the hidden account. This is textbook criminal fraud. At 10 p.m., Marcus sat in his living room, legally his alone now, and opened a beer. The house felt different with the court order in place. Less haunted by deception, more like a space he could reclaim. His phone buzzed. "Rochelle, how are you holding up?" his sister asked. Marcus took a long drink before answering. "It feels strange," he admitted. "Not victory, not really satisfaction. More like grim determination. You know why she did all this, right?" Rochelle's voice was gentle. "She thought you'd be too embarrassed to fight back." "Yeah," Marcus said, looking around at the home he'd nearly lost. "She was wrong about that." "The hard part's coming," Rochelle reminded him. "Depositions, testimony, facing her in court." "I'm ready," Marcus said, and he meant it. 3 days had passed since he'd stood in that gym, watching his reality shatter. 3 days since he'd decided to rebuild it. On his terms. Monday morning sunlight streamed through Marcus's kitchen window as he reviewed another stack of bank statements, adding notes to his already extensive documentation. His phone showed 12 missed calls from Simone over the weekend, all ignored per Patricia's instructions. He'd spent Saturday organizing evidence into categories and Sunday in an intense therapy session with Dr. Mitchell, processing his anger in healthy ways. At 8:30 a.m., Patricia's call lit up his phone. Simone's public defender requested a mediation session, she announced without preamble. It's mandatory before trial anyway, but they're clearly scared. They want to settle fast. "How fast?" Marcus asked, straightening papers on his kitchen table. "Tomorrow morning." They're pushing for urgency, which means they know how bad this looks. The prosecutor's initial review has them spooked. Marcus spent Monday in Patricia's office, methodically reviewing their evidence. They organized it into clear categories: financial fraud, the systematic theft over 18 months, medical deception, forged documents, fake prescriptions, non-existent appointments, and conspiracy, Terrence's involvement in creating fraudulent paperwork. "She'll try to paint you as controlling," Patricia warned. "She'll claim she needed secret funds to escape. We counter with joint account statements showing you never restricted her access." By late afternoon, Marcus faced another challenge, telling his extended family before legal proceedings made everything public. He called his parents and Rochelle, inviting them for dinner. His mother offered to bring food, but Marcus insisted on cooking. He needed the normalcy of the activity. At 6 p.m., they gathered in his dining room. Beverly, his mother, immediately noticed the stacks of papers and folders. Jerome, his father's weathered hands still showing traces of his electrician's career, sat quietly observing his son's demeanor. Marcus had prepared a presentation, organizing it the way he would at work. He showed them the timeline first, 18 months of systematic small withdrawals, then the elaborate cancer scheme coinciding with his inheritance. He played portions of Simone's confession, watched his mother's face crumple with fury. The gym video drew gasps, Simone's healthy appearance shocking after months of supposed illness. "That thieving," Beverly couldn't finish, tears of anger in her eyes. "We watched you sell everything, Marcus. We saw how it was killing you to think she was dying." Jerome's response carried the weight of his years of union work, where a handshake meant something. "Son, you do what you need to do. Get your money back and move on." She made her bed. Despite their limited retirement income, they immediately offered financial help. Marcus refused, but felt strengthened by their unwavering support. They stayed until 10 p.m., helping him organize documents and offering perspectives from their own lives about betrayal and recovery. Tuesday morning arrived crisp and clear. The courthouse conference room felt smaller than Marcus expected, its bland walls and fluorescent lighting creating an appropriately sterile atmosphere for what was to come. Simone's entrance was jarring. Gone was the polished woman who'd manipulated him for years. She wore what appeared to be her mother's old blouse, her hair pulled back severely, face bare of makeup. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but held a hardness that revealed her true nature. Even now, she saw herself as the victim. Her public defender, a harried-looking woman with an overstuffed briefcase, sat close to Simone, whispering urgent advice. Marcus could read the lawyer's body language. She knew exactly how bad their position was. Marcus and Patricia arranged their evidence binders with methodical precision. The mediator, a man who'd clearly seen decades of divorces, reviewed the case summary. His expression shifted from professional neutrality to visible discomfort as he read. "Ms. Whitfield," he addressed Simone directly, "your position is not strong. You're facing potential criminal charges. My strong recommendation is to settle this quickly." Simone's public defender leaned in, speaking with obvious desperation. "Simone, you need to return the money and sign whatever reasonable agreement they offer. If this goes to trial, you could face prison time for fraud." Marcus watched Simone's face, recognizing the calculation behind her eyes. Even now, she was looking for an angle, a way to maintain some control. Her voice took on a familiar manipulative tone as she attempted negotiation. "I'll give back $200,000. I keep $87,000 for my pain and suffering enduring this marriage. Marcus files no criminal charges, and we're done." The absurdity of her offer, trying to keep money she'd stolen while claiming victimhood, crystallized everything Marcus had learned about her true nature. His response came with cold precision. "You keep nothing. You return every dollar, all $287,000 in the hidden account, plus the $47,000 you stole over the previous 18 months. That's $334,000 total. You sign over any claim to the house. You pay my legal fees. You sign a detailed confession that will be held by my attorney. If you ever contact me again or disparage me publicly, it goes directly to the prosecutor. Those are the terms. Non-negotiable." Wednesday morning's sunlight painted long shadows across Patricia's office as Marcus watched her submit the final divorce decree electronically. The computer screen showed a progress bar as the documents uploaded. Settlement agreement, quit-claim deed template, and most importantly, Simone's comprehensive confession. 14 days, Patricia said, reviewing the timeline. She has until the 27th to return all funds and complete the paperwork. The $287,000 wire transfer from the frozen account should hit your account today. Marcus nodded, his fingers absently tracing the edge of his copy of the settlement. And the additional $47,000? She'll have to figure that out herself. Borrow from family, take loans. Not our problem how she gets it. But if she misses the deadline, we go straight to contempt charges. The settlement's brutality still amazed Marcus. In just over 2 weeks, he'd gone from devastated victim to complete victor. The marriage was effectively over. Simone's signed admission of fault eliminated any possible contests or delays. By early afternoon, Marcus's phone buzzed with a bank alert. $287,000 deposit processed. Seeing the numbers made it real. The money was back where it belonged. "We're not done," Patricia reminded him, preparing another set of documents. "The prosecutor needs her signed confession and your victim impact statement. Are you ready to detail everything? The emotional toll? The financial devastation?" Marcus had spent hours crafting his statement, ensuring every word carried the weight of his experience. He described selling his cherished cars, thinking they'd save his wife's life, the sleepless nights researching treatments that never existed, the shame of asking friends for recommendations for oncologists who would never see Simone, because she was never sick. Thursday brought swift action. Angela Reeves, the prosecutor assigned to the case, filed criminal charges by mid-morning: wire fraud, theft by deception, and financial exploitation of a family member. Marcus watched from his office as local news reported Simone's arrest at her mother's house. She was processed and released only after her mother mortgaged her home for bail money. Another cost of Simone's deceptions spreading to those around her. DeAndre's discovery of the GoFundMe scheme had particularly infuriated Marcus. The page featured Simone's best sick photos, carefully staged to look gaunt and tired. Her posts spoke of experimental treatments insurance wouldn't cover, tugging at strangers' heartstrings. The $12,000 she'd raised came from people who thought they were helping save a life. Marcus compiled everything for GoFundMe's fraud department: the confession, criminal charges, proof of her perfect health. The platform's response was immediate: full refunds to all donors and a permanent ban for Simone. The GoFundMe fraud actually makes the criminal case stronger, Angela explained, when Marcus provided her the additional evidence. It shows pattern and premeditation. She didn't just steal from you, she systematically defrauded multiple victims. Friday brought the culmination of the medical billing company's investigation. Marcus received a call from their HR director asking him to verify certain details. By afternoon, both Simone and Terrence were terminated for cause. The company's report to the state licensing board was damning. Terrence had abused his credentials and system access to create fraudulent medical documents, a serious ethical violation that would likely end his career. Terrence's world collapsed simultaneously. Alicia's divorce filing was aggressive and comprehensive. Her attorney had documented every suspicious transfer, every business loan to Simone, every lie Terrence had told to cover his involvement. The judge was unsympathetic to Terrence's claims of innocence. Alicia received full custody of their children, maximum child support, and most of their assets. Friday evening found Marcus in Angela Reeves's office, reviewing the plea deal she'd crafted. The prosecutor was a serious woman who spoke with precise clarity about consequences. 3 years supervised probation, she outlined. 500 hours of community service. Full restitution of your legal fees, $35,000, and most importantly, a permanent criminal record. What if she refuses? Marcus asked. Then we go to trial. With your evidence, her confession, and the additional fraud charges, she's looking at potential prison time. She has no defense and no money for a private attorney. She'll take the plea. Marcus considered this. Is it enough? Angela leaned forward, her expression firm. She'll be a convicted felon. She'll never work in healthcare or financial services again. She'll struggle to find housing or employment, and everyone will know what she did. That's justice. Marcus nodded slowly, processing the comprehensive nature of the consequences. 2 weeks since he'd stood in that gym watching his wife run on an elliptical machine during her supposed chemotherapy. 2 weeks that had transformed both their lives permanently. Monday morning's sun filtered through Marcus's office blinds as he read the email from Patricia. Simone accepted the plea deal, sentencing hearing next Tuesday at 10 a.m. His fingers hovered over the keyboard before typing his response. I need to see her before then. Can you arrange it? Patricia's reply came within minutes, professional and measured. Conference room at my office, tomorrow at 2 p.m. I'll be present as witness and counsel. Are you sure about this? Marcus was sure. Not for reconciliation, that bridge had burned to ash, but for understanding. For 3 weeks, the question why had haunted his nights more than the betrayal itself. Arrange it, he wrote back. That evening, Marcus prepared for the meeting with Dr. Mitchell during their regular therapy session. The trauma specialist's office had become a sanctuary of sorts over the past weeks, a place where he could process the seismic shifts in his life. What do you hope to gain from this conversation? Dr. Mitchell asked, her notepad balanced on her knee. Truth, Marcus replied. Not excuses or manipulation. Just truth. And if she can't or won't give you that, then at least I'll know I tried. That matters to me. Tuesday afternoon arrived with heavy clouds threatening rain. Marcus arrived at Patricia's office early, reviewing case notes to steady his nerves. Patricia met him in the lobby, her expression concerned but supportive. Remember, she advised, you're in control here. We can end the meeting the moment you want to. When Simone entered the conference room, Marcus barely recognized her. The woman who'd radiated charismatic energy just weeks ago looked hollowed out, aged beyond her years. Her designer clothes were replaced by plain slacks and a sweater that seemed borrowed. Her makeup-free face showed the strain of recent weeks. Patricia sat at the end of the conference table, legal pad ready, creating professional distance between the former spouses. The room felt charged with unspoken words. Why? Marcus began, his voice steady. 8 years. Why did you hate me enough to do this? Simone's hands folded and unfolded in her lap. The silence stretched until Marcus thought she wouldn't answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was raw but clear of the manipulative performances he'd grown to recognize. I didn't hate you, she said. That was the problem. You were fine. Safe. Boring. When your aunt died and you got that money, I realized I was going to spend the rest of my life being fine. Terence offered excitement. The money offered freedom. Her mouth twisted slightly. I convinced myself I deserved it more than you did because I'd sacrificed my dreams to be married to someone who never really saw me. Marcus absorbed this, feeling the words land like physical blows. So, you decided to destroy me. I decided to choose myself, Simone replied quietly. I just didn't think you'd fight back. You never fought for anything in our marriage. I thought you'd just accept it and let me go. Marcus leaned forward, his voice taking on an edge. You were wrong about me. Completely wrong. Yeah. Simone nodded slowly. I was. The admission hung between them, neither victory nor defeat, just cold acknowledgement of truth. Marcus studied her face, searching for something he wasn't sure he'd recognize. Do you actually feel sorry? Or just sorry you got caught? Simone considered this, and for once, her answer seemed genuinely thoughtful. Both. I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I became someone who could do this. She paused. But mostly, I'm sorry I lost everything. Patricia's pen scratched quietly against paper, documenting every word. The room felt heavy with the weight of endings. I trusted you completely, Marcus said finally. Even when things weren't perfect between us, I never doubted your basic humanity. That's what you destroyed. Not just money, not just marriage, but the ability to trust. Simone's eyes showed a flicker of real pain. I know. No, Marcus corrected her. You don't know. You won't know until someone does it to you. And they probably will, because people like you, people who can justify anything, always find each other eventually. Rain began pattering against the conference room windows, nature's punctuation to his words. Simone had no response to this, and Marcus realized he needed nothing more from her. The mystery of why had been answered, unsatisfying as it was. The woman before him was exactly what she appeared. Someone who chose selfishness over loyalty, excitement over commitment, theft over honesty. Patricia closed her notepad. I think we're done here. 18 months later, autumn sunlight streamed through new cream-colored curtains in Marcus's bedroom. The morning air carried a hint of October crispness. Beside him, Kendra slept peacefully, her natural curls spread across the pillow. Marcus watched her for a moment, still amazed at how different this felt. This honest, uncomplicated love built on trust and mutual respect. The house around them bore no trace of Simone now. Every room had been repainted in warm earth tones, furniture rearranged or replaced, new art on the walls. Even the kitchen had been updated with modern appliances and granite countertops, a project Marcus tackled himself after the refinancing came through at a much better rate. The second mortgage was paid off entirely, erasing that particular reminder of Simone's deception. Financially, Marcus had emerged stronger than before. His retirement accounts were not only replenished, but growing steadily with increased contributions. The recovered money had been put to strategic use. $50,000 set aside as an emergency fund, a lesson hard learned, $25,000 donated to legitimate cancer research organizations, transforming bitter irony into meaningful purpose, and $15,000 given to a domestic violence organization specializing in financial abuse victims. The rest went toward debt elimination and home improvements. His professional life had flourished unexpectedly. Senior leadership at the automotive company had taken notice of Marcus's methodical handling of personal crisis. His ability to maintain high performance while systematically dismantling Simone's fraud impressed them. The promotion to director came with a significant salary increase and new responsibilities, overseeing 3 project managers and their teams, coordinating major supplier initiatives. The analytical skills that made him boring to Simone now earned him respect and advancement. But it was his personal life that showed the most profound transformation. Meeting Kendra through Rochelle 6 months ago had been unexpected. A high school history teacher with a quick wit and grounded perspective, she approached relationships with refreshing directness. Their third date had included a frank discussion about past relationships. When Marcus explained his divorce, Kendra's response set her apart immediately. "You stood up for yourself," she'd said. Dark eyes serious. "That takes real strength. Not just fighting back, but doing it the right way." Their relationship progressed with intentional slowness, honest conversations about expectations, clear boundaries, and gradually building trust. Kendra had her own full life, teaching, close friendships, community involvement, and didn't need Marcus to complete her. They chose each other daily, deliberately. Marcus's side consulting work gave deeper meaning to his experience. Working with other fraud victims, particularly men who felt ashamed to come forward, allowed him to transform trauma into purpose. He'd helped 7 clients so far, providing guidance on evidence gathering, legal strategy, and emotional recovery. The total amount recovered for his clients exceeded $400,000, each dollar representing someone reclaiming their power from betrayal. His relationship with Rochelle had deepened significantly. Weekly Sunday dinners became sacred tradition, their text conversations constant and supportive. Her engagement to Michael, an architectural engineer Marcus genuinely respected, felt like gaining a brother rather than losing a sister. The family bonds Simone had tried to strain had strengthened instead. Through mutual acquaintances, Marcus occasionally heard updates about Simone's drastically changed circumstances. She worked as a receptionist at a small dental practice, the only employment her fraud conviction allowed. Her apartment was in a declining neighborhood, her car a rusted Corolla with mounting mechanical issues. Monthly meetings with her probation officer kept her tethered to her choices. Her mother, once her strongest defender, now spoke to her rarely and with obvious disappointment. Former friends had evaporated, unwilling to associate with someone who faked cancer for profit. Terrence's situation was equally diminished. Working security at a warehouse, living with his elderly mother, struggling under massive child support payments, he blamed Simone entirely for his downfall, conveniently ignoring his own willing participation in the fraud. His bitter emails to their old colleagues painted him as an innocent victim of Simone's manipulation. 6 months ago, Simone had attempted contact through email. "I'm sorry. I know that doesn't matter, but I need you to know I understand what I did was wrong." Marcus had deleted it without response. Her understanding came far too late to matter. Marcus slipped quietly from bed, careful not to wake Kendra. Tonight, they were hosting dinner. Rochelle and Michael, DeAndre and his wife Lisa, Marcus's parents. The menu was already planned. His mother's lasagna recipe, garlic bread, roasted vegetables. Looking at the kitchen calendar, Marcus noticed Kendra had written Atlanta, Thanksgiving, in her neat teacher's handwriting. Meeting her family felt like another step forward, another piece of this new life falling perfectly into place. I hope you enjoyed that one. Be sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next story. I've picked out 2 more for you that I think you'll really like.